And a lot of that conversation comes with what can go wrong when there aren't proper regulations in place. So if a product or service is known to be unlawful, are there any moral or ethical obligations on other travel providers not to promote them? So we'll start with you, Julien.
So let me start by saying that if they were unlawful, then we wouldn't be promoting them, because that would be illegal. Beyond that, is there an ethical standpoint to not promote different kinds of businesses within the industry? It's a really tough question. We're ruled and run by our stakeholders first and foremost, but the platform itself is run by the general public. And if they choose to write about attractions or a style of accommodation or a restaurant, then we usually indulge them. If we don't have something listed on the site, we let them create some sort of space in a forum or a page in itself for that product. Have we done that for the likes of Airbnb products? Not that I'm aware of. That's not to say that we won't in the future. I mean, if there is a demand for people to communicate and respond on products that are out there, then I can't see in the future why that might not be considered by the company. I'm not the CEO, so I don't have that call. Ethically, there is a responsibility, of course, to not promote things that are wholesome or that are going to negatively impact on the individuals that are using them or the community in general. But beyond that, if they're legal, then surely the general public can decide for themselves whether they like the product or not. And surely there should be platforms that exist where people can communicate and share their ideas.
John, Uber is, with the cease and desist letter, is technically not allowed to operate, but they do. And I've noticed there's quite a few PR companies that are offering lifts from Uber at a discounted price as part of an event that they're planning. So do you believe that they have a moral and an ethical obligation to not use them?
Yes, I do, and it's an avenue that the taxi industry is going down. I mean, the transport department is now referring to Uber as an illegal taxi company. Now, if the legislators are now referring to that as being illegal, I think it behoves then that they should do more about it. But the Coorabella Food and Wine Festival over the weekend, Uber was a major sponsor. That was, every day I'm getting information about a club in the valley or a nightclub or a restaurant. Dial this code in and get a free $40 Uber. I think it's quite dangerous. The question we're asking, what happens when something goes wrong? Are people covered? Is the venue, if the Uber car has an accident, if someone's seriously injured, is the provider of the funding for that free transport, are they liable for a claim? So it is an avenue that the taxi industry is looking at. I mean, we're having that discussion with the government, and I think that they do have an obligation. Julien is not putting anybody illegal on his site. So we're saying, well, why should a venue promote a legal service? Are they aiding and abetting something to go wrong?
Beyond the legal worries, though, have you thought about coming in over the top and doing the same sort of advertising campaigns everyone?
Good question. If we offered, let's just say there was an event for 500 people, it was opening a new nightclub, and Uber offered all those 500 people going to that event, they offered them a $40 travel voucher. They wouldn't have to spend $540 because they couldn't deliver, because they don't have the resources. If Black and White Cabs did it, we would get, but we would have to pay every one of them because we could meet the capacity. So it's a fascinating argument that we're looking at, that they're offering something that you never have the capacity to deliver on, never have to. But everybody says, gee, that's good, they're getting $40. Uber are providing a $40 voucher. You don't have to deliver. It's easy to promise something, you don't have to deliver. I mean, that is almost deceptive in my mind.
Lauren, has that been your experience?
I think that, there is an interesting opportunity there to think about some of these things differently. I don't know whether Uber or Lyft or Airbnb or any of these companies is technically illegal in the company sense. The activity being illegal at a jurisdiction sense is what we're dealing with, and unfortunately it's hard for any individual to really know the state of play in the situation on any given day because it's actually changing so long as well. So, Airbnb might be illegal in some city somewhere, considered to be illegal rather, and There are covers in place that the mere mortal doesn't really know or understand or care to understand just how far that will take them unless something does go wrong. So I know Uber is extremely aggressive in its advertising campaigns, and perhaps anyone's heard of the more recent campaign in Lyon in France, just got pulled down, but they were offering a campaign called Avion de Chasse, which means something like co-pilot, and they had some hot women offering rides. 20 minutes max, you could book an Uber. And that's enough for me to actually, there's a couple of reasons why Uber's tactics aren't necessarily sharing economy friendly more broadly. But still, again, back to the principle of the convenience, the idea that you can see where your ride is, see who your driver is, all of those kinds of things. People are always going to prefer, regardless of legal constraints.
Sam, John brought up there what happens when something goes wrong. Is that an Airbnb consideration? Because every time something goes wrong with Airbnb, it goes all over the world.
It certainly does. And the thing with those, when they do go wrong, there's certainly isolated incidents. If it was something that was prevalent, then business wouldn't be growing as fast as it is. But I think the thing that we do is we certainly take trust and safety very seriously. We have over 100 employees dedicated to trust and safety. We have a number of regulations and measures in place on the marketplace to ensure that things can go as smoothly as they possibly can. The reviews that take place, the verification of users both on the host side and the guest side are very, very important to us. And so I think ultimately, if there were things that were going wrong often, it wouldn't be working. And the reality is that it is. That trust is a very important part of that, and we continue to do everything we can to build that trust.
Does there need to be regulations though in the case of someone moves into an Airbnb and then refuses to leave?
Well, I think you're referring to the squatter incident in Palm Springs. Obviously, again, an isolated incident relative to particular laws in California around squatting. I'm not sure I'm aware of that happening anywhere else in the world. And so again, an isolated instance out of 25 million times, probably not so much of an issue that anyone really needs to worry about.
Sam, Mike, do you think that there is a moral and ethical obligation on what can be advertised with these new operators?
Yeah, I do. I think there is an ethical and moral obligation that we tell the public what the public need to be told. And I just want to twist this a little bit, if I could. Very interesting, situation where councils, with their moral and ethical obligation, we have a situation in Sydney where, as a corporation or an organisation, we're told that you can't have people in the service department staying here because it's not designated that. So please remove yourself. Okay? On the other hand, a whole building is designated service departments, which we purchase the management rights to. And there are many owner-occupiers and long-term residents who are renting. But the council doesn't enforce their moral and ethical obligation. So there's a lot of contradictions out there. And it's not just Sydney. So I think we've got to work our way through these issues. And potentially, companies such as ourselves actually have to challenge those regulatory authorities who aren't regulating themselves.
Trevor, the lawyer, will answer on this one.
So there's been some interesting, the case law is still evolving on this, there's been some interesting cases. Because these Airbnb and HomeAway and Tighe present themselves as a marketplace or a platform, they just present themselves as a conduit for the information component. And they do it very carefully because they don't want to take any more responsibility than as a conduit. Because if they Go further than that, then they will begin to incur some liability. And there have been some interesting cases. One involves TripAdvisor ran a survey in the US on what's America's dirtiest hotel.
Yes.
And they published the results. Of course, the winning hotel was not very pleased and sued TripAdvisor for defamation. But it was held that TripAdvisor was just a conduit. The opinions were really expressed by all its viewers or surfers, and they were just publishing the results of their views. And so TripAdvisor was not guilty of defamation. Compare that with a very interesting case in Sydney, where the Fairfax Media's food writer did a review of a new restaurant where the guy had spent $7 million setting up this wonderful restaurant at Darling Harbour, and opened the business, and the food writer went along and wrote the most scathing, defamatory review of this restaurant. And Fairfax published it under its banner and said, this is our expert food writer, this is what our expert food writer has said about this restaurant. Boom, gone, guilty, liable for defamation, because they had actually endorsed. They weren't just a conduit, they weren't just letting someone else communicate, they were actually endorsing the news. I think in time, though, the platforms will travel closer to economics. There's a basic principle of law called aiding and abetting. So if someone's doing something illegal, let me give you any ideas here, John. If someone's doing something illegal, and you're doing something which is aiding and abetting them to doing that thing that's illegal, there's almost a universal principle in criminal law that you are just as guilty as anyone. I don't know the case yet, but it's an issue that concerns me on behalf of some clients of mine.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point. That there's a difference between promotion and acknowledgement or comment. So obviously in the case of TripAdvisor, we accept comment from the general public, which is not necessarily our promotion of that product or negative of that product either. And there is a distinction.
And I can tell you as a Fairfax writer, it's a very interesting experience having a review legaled by your team before going up with it, and it's because of that case. So we now have procedures in place where if we do want to do a bad review, we have to send a bunch of different people there first, have a meeting, talk to the lawyers, and then run it. So yeah, things did change because of that. But just